Melanoma Introduction to Pembrolizumab with the discussion on Keynote 006, Keynote 002, and Keynote 001. So you can see that now we have many keynotes, Keynote 189, many keynotes. So these melanoma were the first pembrolizumab trial that were tested. So maybe 1 year from now we'll have Keynote 1000 or 2000. So the company is not creative enough to decide some better names for the trial. So coming to the incidence of melanoma worldwide, around 287,000 new cases of melanoma are estimated every year, and approximately 60,000 deaths occur because of melanoma. So in this graph, you can see the 5-year survival rate of stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3 melanoma. It means cutaneous melanoma in our discussion. So it is usually detected early because it occurs mostly in Western countries, and it's detected as change in size, shape of the mole, or a blackish discoloration. So the survival of stage 1 is around 98% 5 year, and 10 years is also very good, around 95%. The survival of stage 2 is around 90% 5-year survival, and 10-year survival is 84%. So as this stage increases, you can see in stage 3B, stage 3C, and stage 3D, the survival, the 5 years and the 10-year survival drastically decreases. You can see that in stage 3D survival, 10-year survival is only 24% as compared to 60% in stage 3C. So in India, as compared to the Western population, the incidence is less. So this is the 2018 Globochem data. And we have 2020 also. So the incidence has slightly increased from 2018 to 2020. Now it's close to around 4,000 cases per year. So the incidence of melanoma is also increasing in India. The prevalence is around 8,000. So we'll be discussing the advanced and mainly the metastatic setting. So you can see that we have plethora of choices in the first line metastatic setting. So it all depends on whether the patient has BRAF V600 activating mutation or not. Irrespective of the fact, the patient can be offered IO. So we have option of pembrolizumab, which is a category 1 indication. We have option of nivolumab, which is also a category 1 indication, and we have option of combination of nivo-ipi. And in BRAF V600 activating mutation, immunotherapy can be given as first line, or we can give targeted therapies like dabrafenib, trametinib, vimurafenib, combimitinib, and encorafenib, binimetinib. So in India, we have dabrafenib and trametinib. In the second line setting on disease progression, immunotherapy can also be offered if the patient has not received immunotherapy in first line, or the patient can be offered BRAF V600 targeted therapy if they have not received it in second line. Other therapies include high dose IL-2 or cytotoxic chemotherapy drugs. So you can see that in this table there is no mention of the chemotherapy drugs. So you can see that how drastically the landscape of melanoma has changed. The IO has completely replaced the role of cytotoxic chemo in first and second line settings, and the other option of BRAF V600E and other targeted mutations like imatinib for c-KIT and NTRK mutations, they have also pushed down the sequence of cytotoxic chemo and treatment of malignant melanoma metastatic. So these are the ESMO guidelines. So just to give you a brief idea, for stage PT1B to T4B with node negative, a sentinel lymph node biopsy is done. If lymph node biopsy is positive, then usually we do a complete lymph node dissection, and which is followed by adjuvant treatment. And if the lymph node sentinel lymph node biopsy is negative, then we put the patient on observation. And in stage 3 or 4, which are not operable, then we get a BRAF V600 mutation tested, and we offer the patient the plethora of options that we have, option of pembro or nivo-ipi, or if the patient is BRAF V600 mutation detected, then we offer that treatment. So the treatment landscape of melanoma have evolved over a period of years. And we know that in the previous graph, we have seen that the survival declines as the stage increases. And in stage 4, the survival is before the introduction of IO. the survival was around 6 to 9 months. And along with chemo, we had interferon alpha, interleukin 2 network capable of inducing tumor response, but they did not prolong the survival in clinical trials. And more of us, we usually don't have that much experience with IL-2 and interferon alpha in clinical practice. Newer agents have demonstrated survival benefits in subsets of patients with advanced melanoma. So coming to chemo options, we have plenty of chemo options, but it has been pushed down like dacarbazine, temozolomide, paclicarbo. We have options of cytokines, and we have option of chemotherapy that are types of therapies being used to treat advanced melanoma patients. Chemotherapy, they usually don't achieve a very good response rate, and only around 20% patients respond to chemo, and only 1 to 2% patients achieve a durable response rate to chemo. And as you can see that in the previous slides, no chemotherapy agents are listed among the NCCN preferred treatment options. Interleukin 2, it has a response rate of 16% and it's approved for use only in the US. Other immunomodulatory agents like interferon alpha along with chemotherapy, they have not shown significant overall survival benefit as compared to chemo. And they have a complexity of administration and lack of clinical experience and also severe toxicity. And they have also been listed in NCCN as other options that if the patient has progressed after IO or after targeted, then only it can be offered. So coming to the targeted therapy, we have 3 options available. Out of these, dabrafenib and trametinib is available in India. The problem is that only a limited subset of patients will be having a BRAF V600 mutation. So the patients that can be offered this treatment is quite low, and the side effect profile is unique and like skin toxicity and fever, and that may be difficult to manage. Nonetheless, it is a very good option for patients who have a BRAF V600E mutation, but those patients are very limited. So coming to the biomarkers in melanoma. So biomarkers means that we can act on the pathway and target these biomarkers for giving a response and increasing the duration of response. So from time tested, we have c-KIT mutation that is identified in melanoma. So for these patients, imatinib has shown a good activity, and we have BRAF mutation, which can be found in up to 50% of the melanoma patients, and we can have NRAS mutations that can be associated in around 10 to 20% of melanoma. Now coming to PD-L1, PD-L1 is overexpressed in melanoma, and it has potential to be used as a biomarker. It is associated with a poorer prognosis and associated with higher response rates to anti-PD-L1 therapy. And level of PD-L1 expression may be important in selection of patients for anti-PD-L1 and anti-CTLA-4 combination therapy. So in melanoma, irrespective of PD-L1, immunotherapy is offered. So although PD-L1 is a good biomarker, probably because of the increased incidence of somatic mutations in melanoma and the way the IO acts in melanoma, the immune microenvironment in melanoma, the PD-L1 testing is not mandatory in melanoma before offering IO. So coming to immunotherapy in melanoma, so evading the immune destruction is one of the typical hallmarks of cancer. So IO acts on this hallmark of cancer. So tumor cells can reprogram cellular metabolism to gain energy. Tumor cells can evade detection and destruction by the immune system. Tumor cells divide without control. Tumor cells sustain proliferative signaling. Tumor cells evade growth suppressors, and tumor cells encourage growth of new blood vessels. So all these things ultimately lead to evasion of the immune destruction. The immunotherapy drugs all acts to reverse these actions that are caused by the cancer cells. So what are the stimulatory and inhibitory factors that control the cancer immunity cycle? So I'll not discuss these points in detail. So we'll just make a mention of this. So immune checkpoints function at different phases in the immune response to regulate the level of duration of T cell response. So, what is the rationale of adding immunotherapy in melanoma? So, basically, activation of the cellular immunity they begins when the T cells they recognize the peptide fragments which are present in the intracellular proteins that are expressed on the antigen presenting cells, which are ultimately bound to the major histocompatibility complex. So this interaction ultimately leads to this interaction requires the presence of B7, which is a co-stimulatory molecule, and which ultimately results in the upregulation of cytotoxic T lymphocyte associated antigen 4, that is CTLA4. And CTLA4 is a negative regulator of T cell activation that ultimately outcompetes cluster of CD28. So it basically serves as a physiological brake on the activated immune system, and anti-CTLA4 therapy ultimately leads to the reversal of the evasion of the immune response by the cancer cells. The second pathway is the co-inhibitory pathway that uses the PD1 and the PDL1, which is often present on the activated tumor cells. The ability of the T cell to produce an effective immune response is down modulated. So antibodies or drugs that directed against the PD1, that is pembrolizumab or nivolumab, or PDL1 inhibitors, they restore or augment an anti-tumor immune response and produce tumor regressions in patients with solid malignancies, or like in patients with advanced melanoma. So coming to the pembrolizumab, I think we are all familiar with pembrolizumab now. It has been there since around 5-6 years. So it's a high affinity antibody against PD1, which exerts dual ligand blockade of the PD1 pathway, including the PDL1 and PDL2 on antigen presenting on tumor cells. So by inhibiting the PD1 receptor from binding to its ligands, pembrolizumab reactivates tumor-specific cytotoxic T lymphocytes in the tumor microenvironment and ultimately reactivates anti-tumor immunity. So with regards to pembrolizumab, it is indicated in patients with stage 3 with node-positive lymphoma in adjuvant setting, and it is also indicated in unresectable or metastatic melanoma in first, second line of treatment. So we'll discuss the relevant keynote studies related to pembrolizumab. First is the keynote 006 study, that is in patients who are ipi-naive advanced melanoma, that is they were treatment naive. So it was an open label randomized controlled phase 3 trial in patients with advanced unresectable metastatic melanoma who were naive to ipi and received no or prior systemic therapy. Patients were randomized in 3 arms, either 10 milligram per kg pembrolizumab every 3 weekly, or 10 milligram per kg pembrolizumab every 2 weekly, or with ipilimumab 3 milligram per kg every 3 weeks. So these were given till progression or unacceptable toxicity. The primary endpoint was overall survival in PFS. So the baseline characteristics between both the studies, they were almost equally matched. The median age was close to 60. PDL1 positivity rate was more in the ipi arm, around 70%. Sorry, more was around 70% in the ipi arm, and the performance status was 1 in around 27%. LDH were also elevated in equal arm. So the patient with brain mets were around 15% in both the arms. So with the keynote 6 5-year data, the PFS in the total study population, that is in all those patients who received pembro either 2 weekly or 3 weekly, it favored the pembro with a statistically significant value of 8.4 months versus 3.4 months in the ipi arm, with a hazard ratio of 3.4. So you can see that the graph starts separating from the very beginning only in favoring the pembro arm as compared to only ipi. And in patients who received 1 line prior treatment, so that also favored combined pembrolizumab, that is either 2 weekly or 3 weekly pembrolizumab, with a PFS of 11.6 months versus 3.7 months, and that was also statistically favoring the pembro arm. We have 5-year data also of the keynote 6 study. So the 5-year data also favored, you can see that the survival that was previously 6 to 9 months, now that has increased to close to 3 years. So the survival favoring the pembrolizumab arm was around 32.7 months as compared to 15.9 months in the ipi arm. That is almost double. And in patients who received prior one-line treatment, so that is in the second-line setting, so that also favored pembrolizumab, 38.7 months as compared to 17.1 months. So the 5-year survival was around 38.7 months in the pembro arm as compared to 30%. Sorry, it was 38% in the pembro arm as compared to 31% in the ipi arm. So coming to the response rates, in patients with pembrolizumab arm had a response rate of 42% as compared to 17% in patients who had single agent ipi arm. And those patients who received first line pembro had also had maintained a very good response, 46%. And in patients who had received pembro in second line had a response rate of 34%, and that also favored pembro as compared to ipi. So that response was present irrespective of the presence of BRAF mutation. So you can see that in patients who had BRAF mutant, who were BRAF mutant also had a similar response rate of around 41%, favoring pembro as compared to 16% in ipi. So I think these are as the experience with the immunotherapy and data with immunotherapy is emerging. So it's good to see that even after 5 years, we can see that the drug is maintaining the response and has shown a significant survival benefit. Now it gives us more confidence to write these drugs in wherever they are indicated. So coming to the treatment-related adverse events, grade 3 and so in patients with the pembrolizumab arm, so grade 3 side effects were present in 16%. And in the ipi arm, grade 3 side effects were present in 19%. So now we are relatively aware what all side effects we can develop with IO. So I'll skip this slide. I think we have discussed the overall survival. I'll skip this slide. So we have discussed the response rates also. So this is an interesting slide. So it shows that those patients who have how the response is maintained as based on the best overall response. So you can at the from completion of 2 years of pembrolizumab. So those patients who had a complete response after completing pembrolizumab, they maintained to have a complete response. 100% patients maintained complete response. So those patients after completing pembrolizumab with their best response as partial response, 94% maintained the partial response at the end of around 3 years. And those patients who were stopped on pembrolizumab with a stable disease, around 66% of those at the end of 3 years maintained the best response, that is the stable disease. So this graph shows that even if we stop the pembrolizumab, the response is relatively well maintained for quite a period of time. So whether it is a complete response, whether it is a partial response, whether it is a stable disease. And patients who received second course of pembrolizumab, they also had a very good response. So the question arises that when do we stop pembrolizumab? So based on KEYNOTE-006 study, so 2 years is a sufficient time period that after 2 years, if the patient has achieved the best possible response, then we can stop pembrolizumab. There is another data based on KEYNOTE-006 only that if the patient has achieved a complete response, then probably 6 months after the complete response, we can stop pembrolizumab. So summary of the KEYNOTE-006 studies. So in this post hoc analysis, pembrolizumab improved the overall survival versus ipilimumab in patients with advanced melanoma, regardless of the line of therapy, that is either first line or second line. The 5-year OS was significantly favoring the pembro arm, around 43%, and a complete response rate in a stage 4 patients in first line setting was around 17%. And all patients who had a CR at the end of 2 years of pembrolizumab, they were still alive at the end of 5 years. And retreatment is also possible with pembrolizumab at progression in patients who maintained who had a best response of stable disease, partial response, or complete response. So coming to Keynote 002 trial, so this evaluated pembrolizumab in ipilimumab refractory patients. So this was a phase 2 trial that included patients with unresectable or metastatic melanoma who had been previously treated with IPI, and if BRAF mutation positive, a BRAF or MEK inhibitors. So that is in second line setting in patients who had received prior treatment. And the prior treatment was either IPI or a BRAF inhibitor. So patients were randomized in 3 arms: pembrolizumab 2 milligram per kg every 3 weeks, pembrolizumab 10 milligram per kg every 3 weeks, and the third is the investigator choice chemotherapy, that is paclitaxel or dacarbazine. Primary endpoint was PFS. Secondary was overall response rate and duration of response. So the baseline characteristics were equally matched in terms of median age, the ethnicity, performance status, BRAF status, and LDH level. So BRAF mutant and wild type, you can see that around 24% of the patients in pembro arm had a BRAF mutation detected, and 23% in the chemo arm had a BRAF mutation detected. So quite a significant number of patients have been treated with prior BRAF mutation. And they were also matched in terms of staging, number of lines of previous therapy. Around 30% patients had received more than 3 lines of therapy in both the arms. And the previous therapies included IPI, IL-2, immunotherapy excluding IPI, and chemotherapy, BRAF or MEK inhibitors. So I just want to know from the company, I'll ask later on, that whether pembro can be given in patients who have been offered nivolumab, because this subsets of patients were also included patients who received immunotherapy excluding IMI and IL-2. So pembrolizumab showed a significant improvement in PFS as compared to chemo. So you can see that in this graph at the end of 18 months, the treatment arm favored 2 milligram favored pembrolizumab with the 25% PFS at the end of 18 months, favoring 10 milligram per kg pembro, and 20% in 2 milligram per kg pembro, as compared to only 1% in patients who were on chemo. So that means a 42% reduction in the risk of disease progression with pembrolizumab 2 milligram per kg, and around 53% reduction of the disease of the risk of disease progression with pembro at 10 milligram per kg every three weekly. So in this forest plot, you can say that irrespective of the age, sex, performance status, and BRAF mutation status, it favored the pembrolizumab arm 2 milligram per kg as compared to cytotoxic chemo. And it also favored pembrolizumab 10 milligram per kg as compared to chemo, irrespective of the age, sex, the performance status, LDH, and BRAF status. The final analysis of overall survival of pembro versus chemo was not adjusted for crossover effect. So although there was not a statistically significant difference between pembro and chemotherapy in the final overall analysis, because it was not adjusted for potentially confounding effects of crossover. Over half of the patients, 55% in the chemo arm, they were ultimately crossed over to receive pembrolizumab. So with pembrolizumab, there is a higher overall response and a higher ongoing response and higher duration of response rates. So patients who responded to treatment pembrolizumab 2 milligram per kg every 3 weekly, that is 21%, and they had, out of those, around 73% had an ongoing response at the end of 12 months with a median duration of response of 22.8 months. Similarly, with the other 10 milligram per kg, the median duration of response was not reached, and at the end of percentage of ongoing responses at 12 months was 79%. So in terms of global health status and health related quality of life with pembrolizumab, so definitely pembrolizumab immunotherapy, we know that has a better quality of life in patients as compared to the chemotherapy arm. So coming to the adverse events, the majority of the patients had more than 20% had itching associated with it, and the safety profile was similar across all the doses. and between patients previously treated with ipilimumab and patients naive to treatment with ipi. So both the treatment subgroups had similar toxicity profile. The bothersome toxicity was itching. Other symptoms that other side effects that were there are included abdominal pain, rash, electrolyte imbalance like hyponatremia and arthralgia. And most of the side effects were manageable. The Keynote 002 5-year outcomes. So with the 5-year outcome is also available for Keynote 002. The overall response rates with pembrolizumab was around 27% and a complete response of around 8%, partial response of around 19%, and stable disease of around 24%. So the median time to response is 2.9 months. So it's important that we understand that immunotherapy acts slower as compared to chemo. So the median time to response is more as compared to chemo. And there can be symptoms like pseudo progression. So we need to be aware that whether we need to continue with this IO, because we don't want to waste that opportunity of the patient that we stop the drug and shift to other drugs. So we need to be very sure that the patient has clinically and radiologically progressed based on immune RECIST criteria, and it is not a pseudo progression phenomena. So it's difficult that how to interpret the response to pembro, and how do we counsel the patient, and how do we expect the responses to happen. And the median duration of response is wonderful. It was around 54.7 months. So coming to the characteristics of complete response to pembrolizumab, 30 patients had best responses of complete response. The median time to CR was 2.8 months. And the median time from stable disease to complete response was 6.9 months in 5 patients. So that means that if a patient had initially had a stable disease, still there is a chance that after around 7 months we can achieve a complete response. And the median time from partial response to complete response was 8.2 months in 22 patients. The median duration of complete response was not reached. And characteristics of partial response to pembrolizumab, 69 patients had best response of partial response, and the median time to partial response was 2.9 months. So that means that the first scan that we should do should be around 3 months. So we can delay the scan from 2 months to 3 months, because the best possible response, the median time is around 3 months. The median time from stable disease to partial response was 2.7 months, and the median duration of partial response was 54.7 months. So characteristics of stable disease to pembrolizumab, 88 patients had best response of stable disease, and the median duration of stable disease was 7.8 months. So the PFS in patients that were randomized to pembrolizumab, the 36-month PFS was 16.9%. And we saw that the PFS, the 18 months PFS with chemo was only 1%. So with pembro, we have data of 3 years and 4 years. So it's wonderful to see that even after 3 years, the PFS was 16.9%, and the 4-year PFS was 15%. And the overall survival in patients who were randomized to pembrolizumab, so the 3-year overall survival was around 30.3%. And the 4-year survival was 27.2%. So you can see from this graph that it plateaus. So that means once we are able to achieve a best possible response, there is a very high likelihood that the patient will possibly remain in that best possible response, even if we stop the ongoing pembrolizumab, and which ultimately leads to increased survival in those patients who previously had a survival of 6 to 9 months. The median overall survival was around 14 months. So this is in the second line setting, that is in patients who already received ipilimumab or a BRAF targeted therapy. So in a second line setting, to be able to achieve, I think it was not possible with chemo. So coming to the adverse event summary. So grade 3 to grade 5 toxicity were present in around 15% of the patients, and 7% ultimately have to discontinue pembrolizumab, and there were less than 1% death. One patient died because of pembrolizumab. So I think we are aware what are the common immune-mediated adverse events. So we are aware that hypothyroidism and fatigue is one of the most common immune-related adverse events, along with incidence of hyperthyroidism, colitis, deranged LFT, hepatitis, thyroiditis, pancreatitis, nephritis, adrenal insufficiency. So it's important that we monitor liver function test, blood count, thyroid profile, and cortisol, along with asking the patients regarding any symptoms of fatigue. And if the patient has fatigue, we have to monitor all these: the thyroid function, the adrenal function, liver functions. So the best response to pembrolizumab who crossed over, that is, who received pembrolizumab in the control arm. So in this, the overall response rate was 17%. So still in around third line setting, still immunotherapy was able to offer a significant response, and complete response was present in one patient, and partial response was present in around 16% of the patients. 50% patient had progressive disease. So summary of KEYNOTE-002, it was a multi-center randomized phase 2 trial, included patients with advanced melanoma previously treated with IPI and/or a BRAF MEK inhibitors, and patients received either 2 mg per kg or 10 mg per kg of pembrolizumab. And it substantially improved PFS, which ultimately translated into OS, although that was not statistically significant because the OS analysis was not adjusted for the potentially confounding effects of crossover. And best responses evolved over time. That is, if we get a stable disease in one scan, it's quite possible that we'll get a partial response and complete response in subsequent scans. And safety profile favored the pembrolizumab arm in the longer follow-up. 48.5 months of additional follow-up since the primary analysis of this KEYNOTE-002. So coming to the now KEYNOTE-001, that is in patients who were heavily pretreated advanced melanoma patients. So this was an uncontrolled multi-center open label randomized dose comparative study. It was a phase 1B trial that included 276 patients from two defined cohorts, one which included patients who were previously treated with IPI and if BRAF mutation positive with BRAF inhibitors, and the other which included patients naive to treatment with IPI. So this was one of the first trial that tested pembrolizumab in solid tumors. So patients with unresectable or metastatic melanoma who received pembro and progressed, they were randomized. Patients with unresectable or metastatic melanoma who were naive to pembro treatment were randomized. 30 minutes infusion of pembrolizumab were given every three weekly, and tumor response was done at 12 weekly intervals. Patients with more than one measurable lesion at baseline by independent review were included, and the response was evaluated, and treatment was continued till progression or unacceptable toxicity. The primary endpoint was overall survival, was the overall response rate, because it was a phase 1B study. So of the 89 patients who were heavily pre-treated, 78% patients had at least 2 or more prior therapies, 13% patients had BRAF mutations, and 84 patients were metastatic. They had visceral or distant mets. The efficacy in patients receiving pembrolizumab 2 mg per kg every 3 weekly in these subsets of patients was around 26%. And the disease control rate was around 48%. And in patients who were naive to treatment with IPI, so the response rate was more, it was 35% as compared to 49%. So pembrolizumab secondary endpoints in patients previously treated with IPI. Of the 89 patients who were treated with 2 mg per kg of pembrolizumab every three weekly, they had a median PFS of around 4.9 months with a 12 months PFS rate of 34% and a median OS of around 18.9 months. So these patients were those who were heavily treated. They received either 2 or 3 lines of prior treatment, and the 2-year survival was around 44%. And the ongoing responses at 24 months in patients who were responded were close to 75%. with median duration of response around 30 months. So of the 51 patients who were treated with 2 milligram per kg pembrolizumab every 3 weekly, the PFS was around 4.7 months and the median OS was around 28 months. And around 27.4 months was the median duration of response in patients who were responders. Coming to the 5-year efficacy outcome, you can see that the 5-year survival outcomes in the total study population was 23.8 months. And in the treatment naive population, it was 38.6 months. So we are, I'll not repeat this slide. So the summary of the KEYNOTE-001 study was that it included patients with advanced melanoma who were previously treated with IPI and BRAF inhibitors. And they also included those patients who were treatment naive to IPI. The disease control rate was similar and the overall response rates were higher for patients who were naive to treatment with IPI. The side effects were manageable. So basically, to conclude that pembrolizumab can be given in metastatic melanoma either in first line setting or in second line setting, and in patients who have received prior treatment even with IPI can be offered pembrolizumab. And the side effect profile of pembrolizumab is also much better than CTLA-4 inhibitors. And now we have data that 2 milligram per kg pembrolizumab, that is 100 milligram pembrolizumab, can also be given with equal response rate. So the cost also comes down with pembrolizumab. So with this, I would like to conclude my presentation, and I would like to thank all the participants.